Greetings, YouTube. Recently I did a video about the 12 races, putting forth an idea of having 12 distinct races as PC options in a campaign setting. In that same setting, I'm thinking of using 12 distinct deities. They would be the only deities in the plane, and every race and nation would worship them in a slightly different way, but those would be the 12 that are available. There would be one single overarching church, the church that venerates all 12 of them, plus temples and cults that were specific to a certain deity, or potentially worshiping them in some combination, you know, like a father-mother thing in one temple or something like that. And the reason I put forth this idea is that I'm looking for a fairly cosmopolitan one among many, as opposed to what is a very traditional fantasy setting trope where things are human-centric and where you have a lot of very organized, lawful church structures that are very much in opposition to each other. For example, there are a lot of churches I've seen in fantasy games that are modeled on the Catholic Church. So you've got this powerful organization with a very rigid law structure, willing to send out missionaries and impose their moral view of the universe upon others. And if they can't do it through pleasant means, they're willing to use force. And I have a problem with that. I'm of the opinion that if you're trying to externally impose a moral worldview upon someone, then you're evil. I don't care what your moral worldview is. I don't care what your intention is. If you're trying to impose it upon someone, as opposed to that person adopting it willingly, that's an evil act. And I'm also just really tired of the whole human-centric, where humans are the most populous race, and where all of the other races are in some kind of minority, or there's like one or two others that are just like the vermin that they're at war with. Like orcs are often, and goblins and such are often viewed as being vermin-like. I'm tired of that. I want humans to be one amongst many. I like humans mechanically, and I think they're important for a game because, let's face it, all the people playing in the game are going to be human, and some people are most comfortable playing a race that they are themselves. They can project themselves more easily into the game if they're playing a human, which is cool. Everybody should be happy. But I'm tired of the elves and the dwarves being dying races. It's just so trite after all these years. I'm looking for something that is much more in balance, a much more egalitarian worldview, where you're not going to have dwarves and elves fighting each other constantly just because they're dwarves and elves. No, if they're going to be dwarves and elves fighting each other, it's because they were hired as mercenaries, or because they're fighting over the same resources, or because, you know, there's a religious war between two different temples. And there's going to be a reason that those groups are at war with each other. It is not just because one group's made of elves and one group's made of dwarves. I hate that. Also, I would probably try really hard not to have the dwarves sound Scottish. And I'm looking to break outside of some of the traditional fantasy tropes. So I'm posting this today in the hopes of coming up with some ideas from my viewers. Is how have you in the past tried to break out of traditional fantasy cliches? The humans are the only, you know, most populous race in the world, or the church is the source of all knowledge and wisdom, or all humans have one culture, or all orcs have one culture. How have you broken out of those things in the past? What were your methods? How successful were they? Did your players like it? Did your players not like it? Inquiring minds, or at least mine, want to know.